You mentioned Tobias coming into the band, and I've noticed, I remember when Manny came into the band, I remember when Axel came into the band, and you could always get a feel of the new person. Like you could feel a change. Not saying the change was bad, but you could feel a change. And when those guys came in, I remember when Manny came in, the first album he played on, which was basically a self-titled album. That album blew me out of the water. And when you look for these guys and when you ask these guys to join the band, what was it about them that you knew they would add something to this band and really kind of improve things for you?
I think that when Manny joined the band, it was a little bit more of this progressive stuff. He was playing with Rage,
Yeah.
and the big difference was that he more or less had to learn this old school stuff, And I always wanted to do an album like the old Black Sabbath or the Osbourne stuff, and that was more or less a target when Manny joined the band. That we did this one with the greatest self-titled album. When Axel joined the band, we thought about doing a second part of Tunes of War, and we created this one with the Clans Will Rise Again. And when Tobias now joined the band, we said, oh, wow, we are fucking old school again. So he can play all this stuff, and he loves it because that you can listen to this album that Tobias is still loving the stuff he's playing, and it needed a couple of time to find out the right sounds of the bass, of the drums, and also of the guitars to find the signature sound from Gravedigger again, I think that is something we left a bit in the last 10 years, this signature sound we created, and that was a main target. And that everybody in the band said, okay, let's go back to this sound, not sound like a heavy metal breakdown album, but the spirit of this first album should be in the new one. And we worked a lot on that, and it came naturally that it sounds like the older albums, but with a timeless sound, and it rocked.
Yeah. So one of the things I did notice is that it was more straight ahead, a little bit more straightforward. You didn't have a lot of the epic choirs, and you didn't really do this big concept record, which you are known for. It was more, I don't want to say stripped down, but it's a much heavier record to me. Like when The Rich, the Poor, the Dying came on. I'll give you an example. When I heard that song, I'm like, man, this I could automatically, I was automatically like, this is going to be a much different record. And the production, I just think everything, the songwriting and the production compared to the last one, which the last album I thought was pretty good, I thought were better, on this new one. In all seriousness, I was not kind of expecting the record to sound like this, and that's kind of why I'm like, man, I'm listening to these riffs this guy's playing, and it's like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a lot of different things before we started with writing of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
We made some experiments, and we said, okay, this is not Gravedigger. This is old school, but we will form it into a Gravedigger song. And it was so much fun to it's like to write a song, and the lyrics are like a computer game, like Tetris. You put brick by brick, to the right place. And when it all come together, and we also had this bass guitar sound from Jens, and I think you never heard the bass so loud like on this album.
Right.
We make some rehearsals with the sound also. And everybody's happy also with his own sound and with a complete sound. And I think this new album has pure energy.
Yeah.
I never expect that from guys who are near to the retirement, So
yeah. Well, it doesn't seem like the vibe I get from a lot of these bands, guys like yourself. Yeah, it's like you're not even thinking about retirement. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and you're 40, 45 years in, and it's like I'm just going to keep going on like my predecessors did. That's pretty much that's pretty much what it is. It's just like everybody seems so laid back and mellow, and they're just like, I'm just going to keep continuing. They're looking at the future. They're not looking at retiring. And I think I noticed that with you. I noticed that with a lot of your contemporaries that have come on the show. They're not thinking about that. They just want to keep pushing forward. And especially now, we're in kind of a very very bad time, for the music business because there's a lot of obstacles, touring costs and stuff like that. But you just still keep going. I think it's great.
Yeah, we have nearly 40 shows for next year so far. I think that some shows will appear more than next year.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, I think to keep this energy is a lot for this kind of music. When I grew up, I was 12 years old, and I saw a Deep Purple cover band in school. And from this time on, I wanted to be a rock star, and that was my dream. When I looked at my son, he's 18 years old now. He's a guitar player and singer, brilliant guitar player with a really good tone and feeling and everything. And he said to me, "Hey, Dad, in 10 years, I want to be a rock star." And I said, "Hey, live your dream, my friend."
Yeah.
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 And you have to follow that. Yeah. And he's rehearsing a lot of time during the day and singing, and he loves what he's doing. And for me, it's much better than he's on the street singing some fucking rap and taking drugs, And he loves this kind of music. He's still in classic rock. His favorite bands are Rush, Deep Purple,
Mm-hmm.
and he will join me for 3 shows next year on stage, singing with me Rebellion. And I can't be prouder than that my son will join me on stage, So, and
Yeah.
the essential thing to keep the energy, also when you are an older guy, it's the love for what you do,
Yeah.
And we are planning now for 2027, the next album and tour, and we have a lot of plans.
Yeah. It's funny. The next generation of people, next generation of kids of people in these bands playing shows and then you're playing on stage with your dad, right? I had this. I remember I had this conversation with Kai Hansen about his son, and
Mm.
they would go on stage, and I remember asking him. I said, I think your son's band is really good. And he looked at me. He's like, he's a better guitar player than I am. And
Yeah.
that took I mean, for someone like him to admit that is even though for as good as he is, it's just funny now his son is playing and now your son's playing. It'd be interesting if he ends up in a band and then suddenly I'm interviewing him on my show, So I just think it's really cool though, that, kids are, your kids and there's other musicians out there are really getting into this stuff.
Yeah, it keeps going, It's a new generation, and if Kai said that his son is a better guitar player, they have a new approach to learning guitar,
Yeah.
and much better teachers than we had, because we are more or less self educated more as a musician. I never had any vocal lessons or something like that,
Yeah.
So my son had good teachers, uh, but he's not very technical player, but he has such a good feeling when
Yeah.
he's playing. And I said, "Hey, this is something I really love, not like Yngwie Malmsteen or Steve Vai or something, but more or less like an old Richie Blackmore or Jimmy Page, this kind of music he's playing." So we are rescued, because if this generation will come up, and there's nothing to add.
Yeah, my favorite German guitar player growing up was Uli Roth. I thought
Yeah,
that guy, I saw him play live here not long ago, and I'm like, man, this guy's like crazy, and
yeah,
then
his guy is a living guitar, So his body and the guitar are nearly the same.
so Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video, and if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.